Tarryn, thank you so much for joining me this morning. It was lovely to talk to you on my way back from the Care England event over the last couple of days. And I think best for us to start with saying this is the first in our series of What's Cooking in Care. So we will have these wonderful chats together, probably with some guests eventually, the last Thursday of every month at 10 a.m. And I suppose, do you want to kick us off with introducing yourself and who you are and what you do?
Sure. So, morning, Jaclyn. It's good to see you again. I'm quite excited for us and what we're going to be doing together. I think it's been a while since I've connected with someone else working in the care sector who has such similar views and passion. So yeah, as Jaclyn said, do join us. We're going to be meeting up and having informal conversations about pretty much what's cooking in care. So I'm Tarryn Gorre. I am the CEO and co-founder of a company called Kafoodle. We've been going for 6 years and we work predominantly in the care, education and hospitality space. So most of you listening probably never heard of me. Hopefully you've heard of Kafoodle, but we are an SME and we are technology. So sometimes we kind of get pushed to the back. But we're a food technology. We work mainly with care homes, helping them do their meal plans, do their nutrition, do their costings, and then we work with the kind of electronic care plans to improve nutrition, reduce frailty, and all the kind of good stuff that everyone, thank God, cares about in the care sector. So it's really good to have connected with Jaclyn and specifically Entegra to see how we can work together moving forward. So Jaclyn, over to you. Do you want to introduce our listeners who you are and what you guys do?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Jaclyn Evans. I'm representing Entegra, which is a fantastic company. It's a procurement provider. So we've been operating for 30 years in the UK, and we're specialists in procurement. So we've got a big team of 150 across Europe, and we work with all of our accounts with our clients to get them the best possible deals in terms of logistics and pricing, and basically support. We're an extension of their team. And we've reached out to Kafoodle for this partnership because I think we both complement each other very well and enable the care sector to focus on what they do best, which is focusing on caring for others, which we're so appreciative of. And being able to support them as they evolve and move through these very challenging times that we've had. And myself personally, when I first saw Kafoodle and what it does, I think it ticks so many boxes for the care sector and what they want to achieve. Even things like, being able to forecast or being able to actually see your daily cost per resident, things like that so many other procurement platforms don't achieve, as well as all of the wonderful work they do with nutrition, which really narrows down into, going down into the individual within each home, their nutritional values. So yeah, that's why we're working together. And also worth saying, Tarryn and I met up and we started having a chat, and it was so great having this conversation and bouncing off each other that we thought, do you know what, it would be really great to take this to the wider community, see if anybody agrees with us, what have people got to say. So if there's anything that you agree with, you don't agree with, you think that you would like to come and join us for one of our calls, please do leave a comment below, because we'd love to hear from you and understand your thoughts.
Yeah, so that's a great intro to Kafoodle, probably better than mine. So as I said, it's great to have Jaclyn so passionate about both the care sector and Kafoodle and what we do. So I think, Jaclyn has very kindly agreed to do this phone call, and I'm sure I'm going to have background noise because that's just the way podcasts go. But Jaclyn, you've just come back from the Care England event, haven't you? Like the first big event, everyone got together post-COVID. How was that?
Yeah, it was wonderful. There were so many people. They're really passionate about care, talking about where that sector is going. And I think you and I have spoken about this before, Tarryn, and we agree there's so much change happening. It's been such a tumultuous last 18 months for everybody, particularly everybody working so hard in the care sector. So it was really motivational, very interesting, and met some fantastic people, some really hardworking, wonderful people from within the care sector, and really interesting to understand what they're doing, what they're working on, and also where they see the sector going. So yeah, it was fabulous. Everybody watched the football game on the evening, so that was also very exciting. But yeah, it was great, thank you. What's been happening with you?
Yeah, I mean, we've had a slightly more quiet week. We're back into hospitals though, and we've done 1 or 2 trainings with our care home groups that are rolling out. So it's great to see people. I think post-COVID, it's great to reconnect. I think especially for those of us that work in the care sector, we clearly do it because we do like people and we do like the caring aspect. So it's been really good to get back out there and to get involved. I think, and I'm not sure if it was a topic at Care England, but I think, you know, we've been seeing Professor Martin Green talk about, as you say, quite an intense last 18 months happening. And I think, you know, I've been trying to catch up on all the reading, and there seems to be something in the news every day about the future of care and the money being set aside to care sector. And, you know, you and I were chatting about the use of technology. Now, obviously I'm biased because it's Kafoodle, but I think there's some really interesting things that I wonder were spoken about this week about the tech that is being used in care homes, but also how amazing some of the care homes were in adapting during what were pretty intense times, let's be fair.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for me that's quite interesting. And I think, you know, I think Jaclyn and I were both, for those listening, were having the first kind of conversation we had was very much about the amount of new companies and the amount of offerings that are coming into the care sector that are giving care sector, well, people in the care sector and specifically care homes, an awareness and a knowledge of all the different options they have to them. But also hopefully the cost saving elements, which I know from my side of working with Entegra, you know, they're a big company. They are very hands-on. So I think I've always been really passionate about the care sector. For those of you who might know a little bit about Kafoodle, I'm lucky enough to have a 92-year-old father who is probably one of the only vegan South African men I've ever come across, and has always been a teetotal vegan, probably why he's 92. But I think for me, nutrition's always been really important. But, you know, and we are a software, as Jaclyn said. And I think what I find very interesting about the Entegra business model, and please do not worry, these podcasts are going to talk about everything. But I think for today, I really wanted to explain what we do together, is the fact that Entegra have, as Jaclyn, such a big team. And, you know, we can give people a software, or anyone gives someone a software that says this soup recipe has X amount of nutrients in it. But having people come in and train and help with the menu development and help really make you get, I kind of call it the cost per calorie ratio. So reducing that cost per calorie as much as possible to ensure that all of the benefits are going to your residents is something that is kind of woven into the Entegra DNA just as much as it is Kafoodle. So I think that partnership looks really exciting to me, and it is just at the beginning, as we know. But I think moving forward, I kind of encourage everyone, you know, we've seen 3 or 4 podcasts come out around care, and I think to kind of raise that awareness of everything that's happening, of the fact that there are procurement companies, there's technology companies, there's resident care, you know, electronic care plans, there's loads of different companies. So I mean, Jaclyn, was there anything that kind of stood out to you, maybe from a procurement side or kind of any care side, whilst you were at the care show this week, as to what some of our listeners should be reading up about or noting?
Yeah, I think one thing that's really interesting is that that traditionally I don't think there's much awareness of a large procurement company such as ours within care. And I always myself think of it kind of like a PR agency. If you were going to go out and PR your own company and you did it independently, you might get some traction, but you'd probably be much better worthwhile going to a PR agency where they're absolute experts in their field and they can achieve the best results on your behalf. For myself, Entegra are absolutely passionate about achieving the objectives of each and every one of our individual clients, whomever that may be. And in each case, it's varying and very different. Some people are looking for, you know, menu development. Some people are looking for absolute cost savings. Some people are looking for operational support with their kitchen teams. Some people are looking to become more sustainable. So that's what we do. But moreover, I think in procurement, a lot of people think of it as, okay, it's just purchasing. It's actually really complex. It's really a detailed thing that happens. And to be able to achieve it, you need a huge amount of spend. you need a huge amount of data and lots of relationships with different suppliers, which we've got in spades. And you also need a lot of experience, and our team has 30 years worth of experience. So we're really confident, and we know that we can achieve the best results on behalf of our partnered businesses. And that's the bit that I think maybe within the care sector is not as well known, or it could possibly be that there's lots of smaller procurement companies that maybe don't have much spend to negotiate and work with.
Jaclyn, I'm going to interrupt you there because I think you're right. And I think I come from a hospitality background, and actually we had an in-house procurement team when I was in restaurants. And even when I started Kafoodle, I mean, I've got some great colleagues that come from the procurement background, but you use words like vast amounts of data and spend. Now, if you're a smaller care home listening to this, or someone like myself whose IQ is questionable, what exactly do you mean when you talk about data and spend? What am I getting?
So if you're an independent company and you're negotiating, or you're trying to maintain your negotiated price points, you've got your own individual data. So you've got your own market intelligence. So that's really what your own suppliers are telling you, and what you know to be the cost of an egg. If you're speaking to a big procurement company, and we also subscribe to a lot of market intelligence information, but we also operate across Europe and in North America. So we've got access to a huge amount of information. From pulling all of that data in, we can see patterns. We know what's going to come up in the next few months. We can see the wider effects of different things. For example, lamb as a cost is going to increase across the world, and that's because it's been really difficult to get lamb out of New Zealand because of how well they've dealt with COVID, but also for us in the UK because there's extra checks at ports now when coming into the UK. So, but even is it making me even think of all of the support that we had for all of our clients during COVID, but also during Brexit, keeping everybody updated on what's happening in the market, what's changing in the market, what the next steps, what's the strategy over the next kind of few months, as well as being able to reach out and get them the best deals, even through our specialist buyers. For example, we've got a specialist meat buyer, and he knows everything about meat, and he's an ex-chef.
And that's making the most of your spend. So you basically give a budget and you say, this is what I have, and we can do the best amount for you, which is the cost savings. And I think, wasn't I reading something that even the cost of dairy is going up because there's not been enough grass due to the weather? So there was something, I'm not sure what my resources were saying that the cost of dairy might go up a little bit due to cows and grazing this year. I'm not sure if that's, but I think, so that's really interesting, because post-Brexit, when you say spend, do you feel like care homes, you know, they work with tight budgets as it is, from my experience? Do you think they kind of get squeezed even harder? I mean, I know we shouldn't be using the B word kind of this far down the line, but it's a reality for a lot of people. You know, we get that a lot, where, you know, the biggest reason someone will use a software like ours is their cost per resident day just completely varies. So is that something you're seeing with people trying to manage budgets better post-Brexit or more efficiently?
I know that, I mean, there's been a lot of onset costs for people to manage and deal with, including, you know, insurance rates have gone up within care. Staffing has gone through the roof because there's had to be extra staff. There's been shortages of staff, which means that, you know, some costs need to be higher and to be increased. You know, the COVID, there's even in delivery, food delivery, that's also had onset costs because we've got a shortage in this country of delivery drivers, and then that's going to effectively filter down to the end consumer. So there's all of these different reasons why, yes, people will be looking to protect their P&Ls and protect their bottom line as much as possible. When you've got a third-party agency whose sole objective is to get the best possible deals for you, but also the best support for you, you're in really safe hands. In terms of spend, and I know that it possibly sounds crude, but purely economically, if we've got a £10 million spend with a supplier, and we're saying these are the logistics that we want to achieve, and we want a 6-day-a-week delivery schedule, difficult at the moment with delivery drivers, but for example, and we want to get the best price file possible. We're probably in a better position to be able to do that on behalf of our clients, rather than going independently and saying, I've got a 250,000 annual spend, and this is what I want to achieve. So economically, that's why we're able to, in most cases, negotiate that best position. And it doesn't mean to say our supply partnerships are entirely important to us, and we also really look after our supply partners, and they partner with us for a really good reason as well, as because we're able to help them expand their businesses.
So I have, and sorry guys, I mean, I'm really curious about this, and podcasts will evolve over the last 12 months, but I suppose we work with data as well, which is why we're working with Entegra. And I think what I find quite interesting, and I don't know if this will be putting Jaclyn on the spot, but is a lot of our clients, so a lot of our smaller care homes are still buying from like Tesco's and Booker's. And so are some of our other independent businesses in other sectors. And are those businesses too small, or is it still worth them having a chat? I know definitely have a chat with us, but is it still worth having a chat with yourselves over because you're basically wholesale buying on steroids, from what I understand.
It is completely, and it's a really great question to ask, Tarryn. I think there's a couple of things for me there when I do hear that. One of them is in terms of track and trace, health and safety, how are those products being delivered? Because if it's in the back of somebody's car and there is an outbreak of something or an issue with something, you don't have that as you would with a food provider. At what temperature was that chicken when it left that shop? How did it travel? At what temperature was it when it arrived? Is it a ready to eat product? Is it a not ready to eat product? Those questions in terms of health and safety protection, and of course all of our suppliers are completely BRC accredited and health and safety approved and everything else, but those are the questions that go through my mind when I think of supermarket shopping for businesses. And the other thing is, in terms of accreditation and health and safety, the other thing is you're purchasing items potentially for large scale operations that are individually packaged. So for you and I, if we go to Tesco and we buy a bottle of bleach, basic example, it's going to be a household size bottle, which there's obviously going to be a premium on.
Yeah.
If you're buying for a large business, those package sizes will be different because they'll be for bulk. So you're losing some money there. And also I would say you're paying the cost lines for a shop, a supermarket, whatever it is.
There's a markup, right? Yeah.
Of course, rather than going direct to a food supplier. So those would be my...
And I suppose one of the other things I got, and guys, the next podcast will no doubt be a bit more about nutrition, but I think this is very interesting for a lot of people coming out of COVID, saving costs. I mean, any business owner, anyone operating a business right now, I mean, speaking for myself, creating efficiencies and cutting costs is a huge priority to us as a company post-COVID, and to make the most of the rest of 21, personally and professionally. But I think, you mentioned there that you are negotiating kind of the 6-day delivery weeks because you have the scope to do that, even though there is a shortage of delivery drivers. One of the other things, obviously, I've been pretty new to the sector over the last 3 years, but I was genuinely quite shocked when I started working with some bigger companies in the care sector as to how often they get deliveries. And I'm quite passionate about carbon footprint and sustainability, which will be another conversation that I'll have with Jaclyn at another time. But I also completely respect the fact that what I didn't realize is that the average care home doesn't have that much storage, especially not for the kitchens. So, the frequency of deliveries is a really big thing for them. Is that what you've come across as well?
It certainly can be a really big thing. What we've seen across all sectors as a business, because of the shortage of delivery drivers and everything that's happening within that climate, is people have really had to plan ahead. And it's just one of those things we all have to manage and deal with. It's a bit like Brexit and COVID. It's a situation that we have to manage as best we can, but it's all about planning ahead as much as possible. And of course, it's something that we always talk about, but within any price of any product, when it's delivered, it's the delivered cost, right? So if you've got a 6-day week delivery, that is going to affect your overall cost. If you can manage that in a 3-day week delivery, of course your carbon emission is going to be better, but you're also going to manage your costs a bit better, because yes, exactly.
And the environment.
Okay, completely. And Tarryn, I know from my conversations I've had in terms of tech and technology within care, I've heard a couple of times people saying, oh, you know, my team aren't really that tech savvy. They might struggle with this. They might struggle to move from paper onto more technology, online ordering, online planning, and things like that. What's your kind of perspective on that?
I think it's always, I mean, changing a behavior, there's fortune spent in that every year. From a technology perspective, we have a lot of people moving off pen and paper. I think we're quite lucky in the fact that our system, you know, was built 5 years ago. We keep iterating it. We've just released a new release of our Natasha's Law stuff and our meal planning. I mean, even as someone who used to work in hospitality, and I won't name names, but there were definitely a lot of technologies that I try to throw out of the window during, you know, those Black Thursdays were quite tough, and you would try and throw things away. But I think it's mainly the support. So I think one of the things that we'll talk about moving forward in these podcasts is I don't think people actually understand how much goes on in the average care home kitchen. And I would love to look at educating the wider community, especially post-COVID, as to what care homes do. I think, you know, so often the kitchens are, as you say, they're not given hardware, they're not given software. You know, everyone assumes they're not tech savvy. But let's be honest, we've got recruitment problems. You know, I work with a lot of chefs in care homes who are under 30 and really passionate about what they do. And it's amazing to see, but it's also really hard when you're not given the right tools. And I think people, you know, especially us coming from, you know, like I did, the restaurant and hotel trade, we have a very preconception as to what care home food is like. And it's not like that. And it doesn't have to be like that. And I think people forget that, you know, this is, you know, 3 meals a day plus snacks, plus cakes. I mean, they bake their own cakes often. They have scones on demand, sandwiches on demand. They have to fortify food. They have to ITSE modify food. And they all have to do it with budgets I've literally never seen achieved in a restaurant. So I think for me, there's a huge skill set there that I think upskilling chefs in care homes, it needs investment. And the whole care sector need to think about how we can attract people into it. But also I think whilst people are always hesitant to change what they do, I think it's the time saving that once you're on the technology or a technology, which will take time, I think being able to just drag and drop a recipe and look at how to fortify something, or look at the way it nutrients, or look at how it affects your cost. I think there's definitely a whole new breed of people coming up, but also there are quite a lot of other chefs that we work with that are really, you know, feedback to us about how much time it saves them and the transparency around it. And I think, you know, one of the things we quite concentrate on is we're an impact business. So we're a social impact business. And I think one of the things I never thought about, because all I really cared about was getting my dad the best nutrition. And actually, when you scale that back, it's the impact it has on someone in a care home who's got to cook a meal, who is given no tools to do that properly, whether it's food that is affordable, whether it's a system that tells them which residents need texture modified or fortified. That psychological impact and pressure of churning out 60 meals that should sometimes be fortified, should not be fortified, should be texture modified, and all have to be in cost. And it's, you know, it's breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and it's you know, 3 options sometimes, 3 options and 3 courses. You know, it's not an easy field. And I think even with carers, then that kind of impact of knowing that their residents are safe, because I think people often forget, as we know, you don't work in the care sector because you want to become a millionaire. You genuinely do work in the care sector because you genuinely care. And I think giving people tools to do that and feel confident in their job, and that someone's not going to choke or someone's not going to have an allergic reaction, which is becoming more prevalent as the demographic changes in the care sector, has a huge impact on their day-to-day work-life balance.
Completely, yeah.
But I think, I mean, I don't know how you feel, Jaclyn. I feel like it's probably, we both got a pretty busy day. I know you've just got back, obviously, from the conference. And I don't know, to everyone listening, there've been a few live questions, but I think hopefully we've covered it. And we are going to do these, I think it was last Thursdays of every month live. We will post this on social media, so you can send us in your questions and recommend guests to talk about. I think it'll be really interesting to know what people want us to talk about. You obviously know the title of the podcast. It's What's Cooking in Care. Jaclyn and I we talk about data. We are incredibly passionate about food information, both the price of it, the nutrition of it, and getting it to you. So that will no doubt be a tone throughout all of the podcasts. But obviously, if there are specific things you're struggling with, or chefs who want to have their voice heard, or care homes that want to come and speak to us about what they can be doing, both Jaclyn and I, as we said, we're pretty comfortable talking, as I hope you've heard. But I don't know, Jaclyn, if you want to wrap it up in some way.
I mean, Tarryn, I could honestly talk to you all day about this stuff. It's been really wonderful to chat to you, and thank you so much. The time has flown by, I didn't even realise. But yes, please leave comments. If there's something that you want for us to talk about next time, let us know. If you would agree or disagree with anything, we're open to hearing it. Let us know. We'd love for you to join us next time, last Thursday of every month at 10 a.m. And we'll be doing some shout outs prior to that to remind you all. So great to talk. Have a wonderful Thursday, and I'll speak to you very soon.
Yeah, speak to you soon. Have a good one.